Hi guys, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. So today is another midweek mystery, and in today's video, unlike last week's video, I'm actually going to be focusing on a particular family, on a particular case, and not necessarily the perpetrators of the incident. I just wanted to also say thank you so much for those that enjoyed last week's video. That was my first midweek mystery video and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I was influenced by a couple of YouTubers that I love watching who also do midweek mysteries, and I'll try and link one or two of their videos down below, so hopefully you guys can check them out as well. Hopefully you find this series interesting on my channel. Now before I go into the case that I'm going to talk about today, I just want to clarify that everything that I have mentioned today has been based on information that I found online or through watching documentaries myself or through listening to podcasts. I also want to mention that I am talking about very sensitive topics relating to murder, relating to possibly drug use as well in this particular case, and just disappearance of a young child as well, and the possible murder of a young child. So I do want to stress that to you, and if you are not comfortable with listening to that, then I'm more than happy for you to obviously not go on with this video. I also want to say that my condolences go out to the family of the victims in this case, and I do hope that eventually the case will be solved, just so the family can have some peace of mind in knowing what happened to their loved ones. So in today's case, I want to talk about the Jameson family. Now, when I was researching which case to do next, I had a whole bunch of cases that I was really interested in, but this one really stuck out to me because I have been following this case for a long time and I've seen countless people talking about it, and I really wanted to discuss it and research it for myself and bring it to you guys on my channel as well. The Jameson family case is one where you are going to be left quite frustrated and quite confused, and there's going to be quite a few theories as to what happened, because I'll just say it now, people really do not know what happened to this family. Unfortunately, it is a tragic end for the family, but in terms of actually why, how and what happened, we don't know. So who were the Jameson family? Well, the family consisted of Bobby Jameson, who was, I believe, either 43 or 44 at the time of his disappearance, Sherilyn Jameson, who was either 40 or 41 at the time of her disappearance, and Madison, who was just 5 or 6 at the time of her disappearance. And they lived in Eufaula in Oklahoma in America, and they mysteriously vanished on October 8th, 2009. Now, on the evening of the 8th of October 2009, the Jameson family had been packing their belongings into their truck. They had a family pickup truck and they were just packing their belongings into this truck, and also on their land they also had a shipping container which they had planned to live in temporarily, I believe, or I'm not sure if it was temporarily or not, on a 40-acre plot of land which they were planning on buying as well. Now, this plot of land was based in Red Oak in Oklahoma, and I believe Red Oak was a very small community, and I think Red Oak has a population of around 500 or so, or it did at that time when they were planning on buying. Now, apparently they wanted to move because they were looking to start afresh, to start a new life, living a more minimalistic life, a more peaceful life, according to their friends and family. And I guess that's why they chose to live in Red Oak, which is like a mountain town area with a very small number of people living there. Hi guys, so I just wanted to clarify that the Jamesons were a very private family, and them being missing wasn't uncommon. So their family didn't actually report them being missing, and it was only until their truck was found that alarms started to be raised about the family. 8 days after their disappearance, the Latimer County Sheriff Department and the sheriff in charge, Israel Bouchon, I think that's how you pronounce his name, found Bobby's pickup truck abandoned. Now, inside the pickup truck was what was really mysterious about this whole thing, because they found quite a few interesting items. Madison's dog, who was called Maisie, was actually found still alive, but just about alive, in the pickup truck. And the dog was very malnourished, obviously. She had been in the truck for 8 days without any food or water. But alongside the dog, they also found $32,000 in an envelope. They found a pill bottle, which will be quite significant. They found Sherilyn's purse, Bobby's wallet, and his ID. They also found a GPS system, the car keys, and their cell phones, but none of the family were present. Now, as police were looking through the evidence in the car, they also looked on Bobby's phone and they found a picture which was quite disturbing, which I'll put up in this video for you, but it was a picture that was recently taken on Bobby's mobile phone. In this picture was Madison, who looked quite confused and possibly quite frightened, and the way she was standing and posing, it didn't seem very natural, but police suspected that this was actually taken on the day that the Jamesons had actually disappeared. Now, I don't know what you guys think about that picture. Let me know down below. Do you think that she's looking quite disturbed, looking quite frightened, or do you just think it's nothing to raise alarm about? Now, not only was their disappearance quite baffling and quite confusing, but when police started to investigate the family a bit more, they realized that actually the whole family background was quite complicated and a mystery in itself. But the police definitely believed that some form of foul play had gone on here. Remember I mentioned a pill bottle was found in the car? Well, this pill bottle actually belonged to a man who had rented out a room in the Jamesons' house previously. Sherry Lynn actually had asked this man to leave, well, forced this man to leave from her house after he started to claim that he was a white supremacist and had links to white supremacists, and started to have racist rants towards Sherry Lynn. Now, Sherry Lynn actually ended up getting very annoyed, quite understandably, with him, and she ended up kicking him out of the house. Why his pill bottle was in their possession and in their car is a bit baffling, and that has led to some speculation, which I will talk about in theories in a moment. Now, further to the investigation, obviously police had to look at the Jameson household, and when they did, they found that the Jamesons had actually installed a security camera. This security camera revealed some really strange goings on. There was some footage that was showing the Jamesons loading their pickup truck, and as they were loading this truck, it appeared that they were in some form of like trance-like state. They were just loading the truck, passing each other, but not necessarily acknowledging each other as they were doing so. They weren't talking to each other from what the cameras showed. It just looked very odd. However, I believe it was Sherry Lynn's mother who said that when she had seen the footage herself, although people seemed to think that this was very odd behavior, she herself didn't find it very odd, because apparently around about 2 years prior to this was when Sherry Lynn started to withdraw from herself, and she started to demonstrate quite strange behavior where she would appear to be quite trance-like, and her mother said that this stemmed from when her sister died. So her behavior in the footage is quite typical of her, according to her mother, because of her sister's death. As you can see, there's quite a few things going on in the family household that is unexplained and just demonstrates quite odd behavior. However, all this time the Jamesons were still missing, and there was a big search going on to find them. Now, 4 years after they had disappeared, in November 2013, skeletal remains were found of an adult female, male, and a small child. And these remains were uncovered by some hunters at, I don't know how you pronounce this, sorry, Sans Bois Mountains, I'm not too sure how you pronounce that, which was 3 miles from where Bobby parked his pickup truck and where police had found the pickup truck. These bodies were severely decayed, and it wasn't until 2014, in fact June 2014, that the remains were finally identified as being the Jameson family. And because of the state of the remains, no cause of death could be established. So we still don't really know how they died. And that really is it for the Jameson family. Now, I'm sure there are still quite a few bits about their background that we can talk about, which I'm going to kind of discuss in theories that I'm going to talk about next. But it's just a strange case, because all of a sudden this family just seems to have disappeared, and obviously now we know that they were possibly murdered, and just from the odd behaviors they were demonstrating before they were murdered up until the day that they disappeared, it's just very odd, and we just don't have the answers. But I'm going to go through a lot of theories now as to what people think may have happened to them. Now, the police are nowhere near solving this case. I think the case is now a cold case, if I'm correct. So I'm going to go through some of the theories that I've found online. Now, some of these theories make sense to me. Others I think are a bit far-fetched, to be honest. And because there's just really no answer out there, there's a lot of theories. Let's just go through what some people believe may have been the reason as to why they had died. Now, one of the big theories out there is that the Jamesons actually died due to drugs. The reason that a lot of people believe that drugs were a big part to play in this whole case is that a few weeks before they had disappeared, the Jamesons had started to lose a lot of weight. It was very noticeable on them. Their behavior also drastically changed. Now, regarding their weight loss, a lot of people believe that because they had lost so much weight, they started to resemble people that may have been involved with methamphetamines. And many believe that this may be the case because apparently in that area meth was widely active, so they think that the Jamesons might have been involved with that. Their pastor came forward and said that the Jamesons had reported seeing spirits, and a lot of people have taken this to mean that maybe this is more evidence to suggest that they were on drugs, and their seeing spirits was just part of their drug intake. Now, it might be that they were on drugs, on meth, but I have to point out that no evidence really has been found to suggest that they were on drugs. So no physical evidence has been found. Some also have speculated that it might not be that they were consuming drugs, but maybe they had fallen upon a meth deal that had gone wrong, or had witnessed something regarding drugs, and this had led ultimately to their death. Again, there was no physical evidence of this, so we can't say that this was something that definitely happened, but it is falling into the line of the whole drug scenario. And another thing I want to kind of point out is if this was drug related, if they had fallen upon a drug deal gone wrong, or there was something that they shouldn't have witnessed or something like that, or they were selling drugs, whatever it may be, why was there still $32,000 in their car in an envelope? You wouldn't expect that money to still be in the car if this was the case. I'm not 100% sure on the drugs scenario or the drugs theory. Now, another theory is relating to Bobby's father, Bob Sr. Bob Sr. wasn't a very pleasant man. He apparently wasn't a very nice man. He was quite hostile towards his son and towards the Jameson family. And they also had a few disputes about money as well, I believe. Now, Bobby had a very volatile relationship with his father, and he actually had filed a protective order against his father because he had said that he had threatened to kill him and his family at one point. It's also been suggested that he actually has links to the Mexican mafia as well. So people are kind of speculating that maybe this could be tied into why the Jamesons ended up losing their lives. But again, there's not really much evidence to support this. And it kind of does paint the picture of Bobby's father as being a very dangerous man who others claim that thought he was above the law, and people did believe that he was involved with prostitutes and gangs and meth. But the suspicion of Bobby's father in this case actually came to an end because Bobby's father actually died 2 months after the disappearance of the Jameson family. And apparently, according to Bobby Jameson's brother, Jack Jameson, their father had been in very poor health for quite some time, and he claimed that during the time of their disappearance, his father was either in a hospital or rest home. And even though he was a very disturbed man and possibly quite aggressive at times, he said that he wouldn't be involved in any of their murders. Another addition to this is that the Jamesons actually had the security camera that the police had found at their home. They had that installed because of Bob Sr. And also some people believe that they were actually moving away, not necessarily to have a quiet life or live a minimalistic life, but they were moving away to get away from Bob Sr. Putting all this together, it kind of makes sense that, you know, they could possibly have been running away or moving away to get away from Bob Sr. Something could have happened between them, and he may have possibly been involved in their disappearance. But again, police haven't found enough substantial evidence to suggest this, so we can't say that this is something that is 100% true as well. So these are all alleged facts right now. Again, with the Bob Sr. argument, I would question as to why, if this was to do with money and he had, you know, money disputes with the Jamesons, why would he leave $32,000 in the car? Again, this money was just left in the car. Now, when investigators were searching the car, they used search dogs, and there was no evidence that the family had actually been harmed within the vehicle. Also, regarding the man that the Jamesons had lived with and the fact that his pill bottle was found in their car, he actually had a very substantial alibi the night that they disappeared. So again, his involvement is questionable as well. If they did happen to come across a drug deal or whatever it may be that they weren't supposed to come across, why was there not much evidence of a struggle within the car? The car itself was just abandoned, and it could be possible that the perpetrators may have asked or forced the Jamesons to leave their car, and, you know, had possibly killed them further away from the car where their bodies were found. But again, really not much evidence there. Another theory that has been proposed is relating to the whole spiritual warfare and cult aspect. Regardless of whether or not you believe in this stuff, the fact is the Jamisons really did believe that they were under some form of spiritual attack. And as I mentioned before, their pastor had actually mentioned that they came to him and told him, you know, that they felt that they were being spiritually attacked. Now, the family also owned a satanic and witch Bible, and a strange message which was relating to that satanic world was found on the container that they were planning on living in. And there's also been reports that possibly Sherilyn was involved with some form of cultic group as well. Apparently, Bobby had asked his pastor for this satanic Bible and also asked for some special bullets to help when he was doing an exorcism. So this was something they truly believed in. They really thought that their home was possessed by some form of evil spirit. Now, the police didn't necessarily dismiss this theory either. They actually did try and follow up on their cultic activity, and when they did, they didn't really find anything substantial that they could go on. And of course, there's really no proof to suggest that the family were being plagued by evil spirits or demons or whatever it may be. And the messages in their shipping container, which actually was relating to something about black cats being killed and witches not liking that, that was what they had written in their shipping container. Even though that seems very eerie and very strange to write, apparently this had been related to something to do with the poisoning of cats in the area by a neighbor or a member of the community. One thing to state regarding the cult aspect is that Sherilyn's mother actually did believe that they were on a hit list for a cult, and she really did believe that somebody had killed them, and she thought it was to do with possibly some form of spiritual thing or cult activity. She says she didn't necessarily name the religious cult, but she thinks that it may have been to do with something like that. And she's quoted as saying, "Just like I've said from the beginning, I think somebody killed them. There's just no way that Bobby and Sherilyn would ever let anything happen to Madison unless something had been done to them." And from that, she really does believe that this was beyond their control. Now, another theory that has been put forward, which a lot of people do believe maybe the true answer here, is murder-suicide. Bobby and Sherilyn actually did both suffer from depression. Sherilyn actually was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and Bobby had suffered from depression after losing his job. And this isn't just a theory put out by the public. In fact, the police at one point had believed that Sherilyn had killed her husband and her daughter before killing herself. And they thought that a gun had actually disappeared from the pickup truck, and therefore they thought that could have possibly been the murder weapon. And they also had discovered an 11-page letter that Sherilyn had written to Bobby, which was very aggressive and nihilistic and quite disturbing apparently. But when her family were told about this letter, they actually had said that this wasn't anything unusual, and she would often speak this way towards her husband. That was simply due to her bipolar disorder. Now, although the suicide explanation is widely used to explain unexplainable disappearances, possibly of like a family like this, it does beg the question as to, again, why would the Jamisons pack up their belongings and take $32,000 with them if one of them was planning on murdering the rest of them? Or why would they even do this if it was all so they could commit suicide? It just doesn't seem to make sense, especially for suicide, that you would pack up all your belongings and take out all your money and really reorganize your whole life if you were planning on taking your lives. But again, suicide is a tricky thing to really understand, and ultimately it is the person or the people that commit the suicide that can truly explain why they would have done so. But in this particular case, it just doesn't seem to fit. A really strange theory that has been put forward is that the family is actually on a witness protection program. Now, people believe that this is because this entire family just disappears, and they believe that it may be that the family were involved with, I don't know, some form of drug investigation, or it was to do with maybe, again, relating to Bobby Sr. and his kind of relations with the Mexican mafia, possibly. They may have been put into witness protection, and this whole disappearance and murder, possibly, of them has been just to throw people off of them and kind of forget about them. But again, this really is quite an out there theory, and I don't necessarily believe this one. The skeletons were found, DNA showed that it was them, although some conspiracy theorists might say, well, this could have all been to cover up the truth. Possibly it may have been, but I'm not necessarily inclined to think that way. But if you do, okay, but I just thought I would mention that one because again, that is something that is out there, but I don't necessarily know if I would agree with that one. And again, why would they put $32,000 into an envelope if this was part of a witness protection program? But some people have argued that the $32,000 was just planted there as part of the whole case to kind of throw people off the case. Another theory that has been put forward is that this was all part of a kidnapping plot. Now, some people believe that the Jamisons were actually murdered for their daughter, Madison, that somebody actually wanted to take their daughter and they led the Jameson family into a secluded area and killed them so that they could then take their daughter. But for some unknown reason, the plan may have fallen apart and they ended up killing all 3 members of the Jameson family. Now, again, I don't know how much I necessarily believe this particular theory. This theory stemmed from the picture that was on Bobby's phone. Again, if this was part of a kidnapping plot, why would they take the picture on Bobby's phone? Why wouldn't they just use their own phone? Especially if they were going to send the picture to someone else. I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense to me, this particular theory. So I'm not very inclined to believe this one, and I think it's a bit out there. And also, I wouldn't really know why they would kill Madison anyway if they did want to steal her, regardless of what happened, because they would have killed her parents. So yeah, it just doesn't really make sense. This next theory kind of stems into other theories that we've mentioned before, but it has been proposed that the Jameson family actually may have just faked their own death. Again, this is, in my opinion, a bit far-fetched, but a lot of theorists are claiming that it may just be that, you know, they were seeking to start afresh. In a way, they were disturbed by Bobby Sr., maybe didn't feel safe around him, and they were claiming they had evil spirits in their house, that the house was haunted or had evil spirits in it. So they had all these issues, they had their own mental health issues. All of this would have, you know, been a lot for them to handle, and maybe they just felt like starting afresh. They wanted to buy the plot of land, and maybe they thought, you know, buying this plot of land wouldn't necessarily have made the difference in their life, and so it might have just been that they decided to just run away and start again and start afresh. But again, their remains were found and DNA concluded that it was their remains, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, some people believe that the Jamisons may have actually died due to carbon monoxide poisoning, and this might be the reason why it was very difficult to determine their cause of death. Because they didn't necessarily experience any blunt trauma or anything like that. So people believe that their car may have been leaking carbon monoxide, and whilst they slept in their car, possibly overnight, obviously they would have been inhaling the carbon monoxide, and this might have led to confusion amongst them. And it could have been that a confused Bobby or Sherilyn led the family on a wander away from the car, and that's why their bodies were found 3 miles away from the vehicle. People suggest that it may be that they wandered late at night in the dark away from their car, and they could have died from the exposure of carbon monoxide in their system, or a fall, or whatever it may be, but that is what led to their death. I don't know. I mean, this one is quite possible, but the only thing that I question with this one is the dog was found in the car still alive 8 days after. I don't really know how much I agree with this one, just simply because I don't know, I'm not really an expert in this, but the dog was still alive, so wouldn't the dog necessarily have died? There's just so many questions. It does make sense. It's not as far-fetched as some of the other ones I've mentioned. Now, the last theory is one which is quite a simple theory, but would make sense as well. Now, some people argue that it all is just too complicated and we are making it very complicated. It might just be the most simplest explanation out there, that this all happened due to a complete tragic accident. Some people believe that the family may have simply wandered from their car for whatever reason that may be. It may have been that they stopped for a rest break, and I don't know, maybe Madison decided to run off and they went to look for her. It just might be that this all happened because they simply went for a wander, got lost, and maybe the elements in the woods where they were found led to their death. Now, because the police couldn't really find evidence as to what led to their death, this could possibly be the reason, and it might just not be as complicated or as mysterious as we are trying to make it out to be. So I would like to know what you guys think. What do you think happened to the Jameson family? Now, this is something that this case has really truly baffled everybody, and there is no answer out there. And regardless of how logical or extreme some of the theories that are put forward are, we just don't have an answer. So to be honest, anything could have been possible right now. I'm more inclined to lean towards the more logical explanations. I do possibly think that foul play was involved in this, but the reasons behind that, I just don't know. And just really hope that the police really look into this and answers are found, because I just feel for their families right now, and it's just very sad because they just don't have the answers. Now, Israel Bouchon, who was the lead investigator in this case, actually stated that a lot of investigators would love to have as many leads as we do. The problem is they point in so many different directions. That statement alone just goes to show just how hard the police may have been trying with this case, but regardless of what they did, all of the leads that they had was not cohesive and did not really lead to any answers. I really would like to know what you guys think about this particular case. Have you heard about it before? What are your theories on it? Do you agree with some of the theories that have been put out there? Let me know down below what you think, and I would love to have a discussion with you down there. I obviously haven't put every single point about the case in this video, just simply because, number one, I am not able to. Number two, this video would go on for hours if I was able to. I did try my best with this, so hopefully you found it interesting. So I will see you very soon in my next video on Monday, and I look forward to chatting to you guys below. Take care, guys, and see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.